Every day, letters like these arrive, every single day, sealed envelopes, USB drives inside them, photographs, printed words, and every day I sit here and I open them, and I play them, and I read what is inside. Some of them move me. Some of them I put down and think about for a few hours, and then I set them aside, and the next one comes. This one I could not set aside. I have been sitting with this envelope since this morning. I have opened it and closed it. I have started to film this introduction 4 times, and every time I sat down in front of this camera, the same thing happened. Something in me went completely still. Not still like fear, still like standing at the edge of something vast, and finally understanding how large it is. I am going to tell you exactly what is different about this one, not to perform suspense, but because the reason this letter stopped me is the exact same reason it is going to stop you, and I believe you have the right to know that before the letter begins reading itself to you. My name is Dorothy. I have opened letters like this, a great many of them, and I have learned over time the difference between a message that is meaningful and a message that was sent, not composed and delivered, sent. The way something is released from one place with the specific coordinates of the person it is going to find already built into it. No guessing. No broadcasting to a general audience and hoping someone receives it. Sent, the way an arrow is sent, with a precise and intentional target. These came before I opened them, I shared them. Most days, multiple arrive. And then today. This one arrived. Something about it was different the moment it was in my hands. The seal on it, the weight of it, the way my own hands went still when I touched it. I'm not a person who says things like that casually. I am telling you because it is true, and because what is inside this envelope, I believe, was waiting for you to be exactly where you are right now, in exactly this moment, on exactly this day. Inside is a USB drive. On the USB drive, a letter. Not written by me, not written by anyone visible. A letter that carries a name. And the name it carries is yours. Not the way a printed form uses a name. The way a message finds the one person on earth it was always going to find, because it was shaped around that specific soul, before the need to send it was even fully understood. A USB drive, color photographs, printed, words, in black and white. Every single item here is part of this letter. None of it is decoration. At certain moments during the reading of the letter, it will instruct me to pause and show you something from inside this envelope. One of these photographs, or one of these printed words. Each one was placed here for a specific reason. Each one belongs to a specific moment in the letter. You will understand why when we arrive there. What I am asking of you right now is one thing. Settle in. Whatever is pulling at the edges of your attention, let it wait. This letter was written to be received completely, from the first word to the last, because a letter only partially received is a key only partially turned, and this particular door does not open halfway. I am pressing play now.
Something broke open today, not slowly, not gradually, not in the quiet, incremental way that most changes arrive. Something broke open today, like a dam that had held back water for years, and the force of what is now moving toward you cannot be redirected, cannot be delayed, cannot be diminished by the size of your doubt, or the depth of your discouragement, or the length of time you have been waiting. My name is Michael, and I have been authorized by the Most High Himself to tell you exactly what happened. Before you dismiss this, before the rational voice in your mind begins constructing reasons why a message like this cannot possibly be meant for someone like you, before the old habit of protecting yourself from hope closes you off before you have received a single word, I need you to notice something. Notice what your body did when you encountered this today. Notice whether your breath changed, whether something in your chest shifted, whether there was a recognition before comprehension, a knowing before understanding. That was not nothing. That was your spirit responding to a voice it has heard before, a voice it has been waiting to hear again. Today is a specific day in the unseen realm. Not every day carries the weight of what today carries. There are ordinary days in heaven's calendar, days when the work continues steadily and without particular urgency. And then there are days when the record books are opened, when the scrolls that contain the next chapter of certain lives are unsealed, when the deliberations that have been ongoing in the courts of eternity finally reach their verdict. And the verdict is announced with a thunder that shakes the very foundations of the heavenly hall. Today was one of those days, and your life was at the center of it. I need you to stay with me from this moment through to the end of this message, not because I am asking for your attention as a transaction, but because everything I carry for you today, every word that heaven entrusted to me to deliver directly to your spirit, must be received in full for the full weight of it to land. A message only partially received is a key only partially turned. The door does not open. Stay. Everything you need is in what follows.
The letter told you a war was fought for you, that your name was known before you were born. This is what that protection looks like. This is who stood between you and everything that tried to stop you.
Let me begin, not with the blessing, because you will receive that, but with something that must be understood first, the context that will allow the blessing to make sense. You have been living at the center of a war, not a war you chose, not a war you could see or strategize or fully comprehend while standing inside it, a war that operated entirely in the dimension that sits just beneath the surface of everything you can perceive with your natural senses. A war between what was intended for your life from the beginning of your existence and the forces that recognized what you carried and made it their mission to ensure you never fully walked in it. I want to be honest with you about this because you deserve honesty. There were seasons where that opposition was permitted to touch your life, where the losses and the grief and the disappointment you endured were not the result of heaven forgetting you, but the result of a battlefield reality that affects those who carry the most significant assignments. And the reason I name this today is not to frighten you, but to reframe what you have called your failures, what you lost. You did not always lose, because you were not enough. What was taken from you was not always taken, because you deserved the loss. The relationships that ended before you were finished with them. The opportunities that collapsed before they could mature. The seasons of your life where you gave everything you had and still came up short. Some of that was spiritual opposition against someone the enemy had correctly identified as dangerous, someone whose full awakening would disrupt plans that were centuries in the making. You have been a target because you have always been a threat. Hear that. Read it again if you must. You were not attacked because you were weak. You were resisted because your very existence and your full potential represent something that darkness cannot allow to move unchecked. But here is what the opposition never had access to: the authority to determine the final outcome. Every campaign against your peace, your purpose, your health, your relationships, your provision, every single one of them had a ceiling, a boundary beyond which they could not cross, written by the same hand that wrote your name into the book of life before the world began. Today, the verdict on this long war has been declared, and the declaration was in your favor, not tentatively, not conditionally, permanently. The season of that opposition holding ground in your life is over as of today. The assignments against you are being revoked. The forces that occupied territory in your relationships, your body, your mind, your finances, your sense of purpose have been served notice. What held you back is being removed, and what was always intended for you, the inheritance you have been separated from by the interference, is being returned. Not partially, not in installments, in full.
Read this carefully. This is the truth about everything that came against you.
Before I tell you what is coming, I want to speak about something even more foundational. I want to talk about who you actually are, not who you have been trained to believe you are by decades of living in a world that does not see you the way heaven sees you. There was a moment before your life on this earth began when you were known in the realm of eternity with the full clarity that only the eternal perspective affords. In that knowing, a specific and irreplaceable design was established. A particular arrangement of gifts and callings and capacities and purpose that belonged to you alone. A version of light that no other soul in the history of creation carried in exactly the same way. That design was not theoretical. It was not aspirational. It was definitive. You were not sent into the world with a vague possibility of contributing something meaningful. You were sent with an assignment, a specific territory of influence, a specific quality of love, a specific expression of God's own nature that was meant to move through you into the world and into the people whose lives would intersect with yours. Over the years, that original clarity got obscured. Life has a way of doing that. The voices of people who did not see you clearly, people who minimized you, dismissed you, used you, or abandoned you, those voices accumulated and gradually replaced the original voice that named your worth. The mirror you were handed by your circumstances showed you a smaller reflection than the truth. And at some point, you began to organize your expectations around the smaller reflection, rather than the original design. Today, I am speaking to the original design. Today, I am addressing the version of you that heaven has held in trust across all the years and the losses and the revisions. That version was not edited or diminished by what happened to you. She was protected, and today, the protection is yielding to the restoration. Today, the original design is being released back into your life with a force and clarity that the accumulated fog of the years cannot withstand. I want to ask you to do something right now. Take a slow breath, and in the quiet space inside yourself, say this: I am more than what I have been told. I carry something this world still needs. And today, I receive back what was always mine. You do not have to say it out loud. You do not have to feel it fully to say it, because the saying of it is itself an act of alignment that opens something. Say it, and notice what shifts.
Before you were born, your design was already complete. This is what it looks like when heaven holds your original blueprint in its hands, before the world ever had a chance to tell you who you were not.
Now, I want to tell you about the specific thing that happened today. The concrete, real, singular event in the unseen realm that is the reason this message reached you at this moment, and not another. There is a place in the heavenly realm where the prayers of human beings are held. This is not metaphor. This is not poetic language. It is a real place, and those of us who have access to it have stood in its presence with a reverence that words in any human language struggle to fully capture. Because what is held there represents something extraordinary. It represents the faith of people who prayed when they had almost no faith left, who brought their requests to God with trembling hands and broken voices, and no certainty that anything was listening. Your prayers are in that place. Every single one. The prayer you prayed at your kitchen table on a morning when you were so tired you could barely form the words. The prayer you prayed in the hospital waiting room while someone you loved was behind a closed door. The prayer you whispered while driving, your eyes on the road, but your heart somewhere else entirely, asking God to intervene in a situation that seemed completely beyond intervention. The prayer you prayed for your child who broke your heart. The prayer you prayed for your grandchild whose path has frightened you. The prayer you prayed for yourself, the quiet, private ones, asking for peace that the daytime would not produce, for hope when the evidence was against it, for a sign that any of this mattered, that you mattered, that you had not been overlooked. Today, a portion of that collection was formally moved from the category of held in trust to the category of answered and in active motion. I want you to stop there and take that in. Not all answers are instantaneous. Not all answered prayers look like what you imagined when you prayed them. But every prayer that was shifted today carries with it the full intention and the full authority of the one who authorized the shift. And the shift is real, whether or not the physical evidence has yet appeared in your visible world. Some of those answers will arrive in ways you cannot predict. A phone call you were not expecting. A door opening in a direction you had stopped looking toward. A change in a relationship that had seemed permanently stuck. A physical shift in your body that your doctor cannot fully explain. A financial opening from a source you never anticipated. A peace arriving in a situation that should not be producing peace. The unmistakable peace that tells you something you cannot see has changed. When those moments arrive, and they will arrive, some of them sooner than you think, recognize them. Mark them. They are the fingerprints of today's decree becoming visible in your tangible world.
Every prayer you ever whispered when no one was listening was recorded, and today they are moving from held to answered.
I want to stop here and speak directly to those of you for whom this message finds you in the later chapters of your life. Those of you who are past 60, past 70, perhaps approaching, or past 80. Those of you for whom the culture around you has quietly communicated that your best seasons are behind you, and that what remains is a dignified waiting rather than a vibrant living. I need to address that lie with the full authority that I carry. There is no such thing in God's economy as a person who has outlived their purpose. The same God who created the universe from nothing does not run out of plans for a human being while that human being is still breathing. The idea that God's intentions for your life had an expiration date somewhere in your past is a deception, a culturally constructed fiction that has been accepted by too many people who deserved the truth instead. What the later seasons of life carry, and what younger seasons do not have access to, is a specific form of wisdom and depth that can only be produced by time. The kind of understanding that comes from having survived things that should not have been survivable. The quality of compassion that can only develop in someone who has sat in grief long enough to stop being afraid of it. The capacity for gratitude that exists in a person who has lived long enough to know exactly how fragile and precious each ordinary moment is. These are not consolation prizes for having aged. They are legitimate forms of power and influence that younger people, for all their energy and ambition and capability, simply do not yet possess. And the assignments of this season of your life the ways you are meant to contribute, the love you are meant to give, the healing you are meant to carry into the lives of those around you. Those assignments require exactly those qualities. Your age is not your limitation. It is your qualification. I also want to speak tenderly to the particular kind of loneliness that can settle over women in the later seasons of life. The loneliness of outliving a spouse, of watching your peer group thin as the years accumulate, of the specific invisibility that our culture visits upon older women with a casual cruelty it does not even recognize in itself, the loneliness of a body that requires more care and accommodation than it once did, the loneliness of roles that have changed, of children grown and gone, of a house that echoes in ways it never used to. That loneliness has been seen from heaven with a love and an attentiveness that precisely matches its depth. It has not gone unwitnessed. And today, part of what was released on your behalf was a direct response to that loneliness, not a vague promise that things will be better. A specific assignment of connection, of warmth, of being known and accompanied, that is moving toward you right now. You will not end this season of your life still aching in that particular way. That is a promise, spoken with the full weight of what I carry.
This letter just described you, and I want you to really look at this image, because what you see here is how heaven sees you, not as someone past her season, but as someone whose most powerful season has only just arrived.
Let me take you inside the gathering I was part of earlier today. I want to describe it, not in ways that seem distant and mythological, but in ways that make it as real and specific and present as it actually was. The convening began before the light reached your part of the world. In the realm where I operate, time does not function the way it does for you. But I can tell you that what unfolded in that assembly was an event of significant magnitude. Not routine, not procedural. The kind of occasion that does not happen for every life on every day. The kind that marks a true turning point in the unfolding of a particular story. Your name was brought before the highest council, and I want to say something about the way your name was spoken that I do not want you to skip past. When the Father speaks a human name, He speaks it with the full weight of His knowledge of that person. He speaks it as though the name itself contains the entire narrative, all the joy and the struggle and the growth and the love and the loss and the endurance compressed into sound. When He spoke your name today, the room fell silent in a specific way. Not the silence of absence, the silence of awe, the way a room falls silent when something undeniably sacred enters it. That silence, beloved, was the entire heavenly assembly recognizing the significance of what was about to be decreed. And what was decreed was this: that the full inheritance prepared for you since before your first breath was being formally released, that the season of preparation the long and sometimes painful refining process that has been your life's experience for years, was being formally declared complete, that everything held in trust would now be delivered. There were angels in that room who had been assigned to your life since your earliest years. I watched them in the moments after the decree was issued. The expression on their faces was one that I will not easily forget. Not surprise. They knew what was coming. What I saw on their faces was relief, the deep, warm relief of those who have fought long and protected faithfully, and finally arrived at the moment where the long labor gives way to the long harvest. They were ready for this. And so, I believe, are you.
I want you to understand what just happened before the sun rose today, before you even opened your eyes. This was already in motion for you.
I am going to be specific now, in a way that I hope becomes an anchor for your faith in the days directly ahead. Because one of the ways the enemy steals the impact of a message like this is by ensuring that enough time passes between receiving it and seeing its confirmation, that the memory of the message has faded and the seed of faith it planted has been choked by the noise of ordinary life. So let me give you markers, real, specific, recognizable markers that will appear in your life within the next 72 hours and that will confirm for you, in your own lived experience, that what was decreed today is genuinely and actively in motion. The first marker will be a shift in your interior atmosphere. Not a dramatic visitation, not a vision or an audible voice, something quieter and more certain than either of those things. A settling, a sense of being held that arrives without a logical trigger, perhaps in the middle of doing something entirely mundane, washing the dishes, folding laundry, sitting in your garden, walking through a grocery store aisle. And suddenly, the burden you have been carrying feels measurably lighter. Not gone, not yet, but lighter in a way that is real enough that you notice it. That is not your mood shifting randomly. That is the presence of what was released today, touching the edges of your immediate experience. Mark that moment. Remember when it happened. The second marker will arrive through a word from an unexpected direction, a sentence spoken to you by someone who does not know what it means to you, a line in a book or an article, or a message that seems to have been written with your specific situation in mind, a prayer spoken in your hearing that addresses exactly what you have been carrying in private. That word will carry a resonance that cannot be explained by coincidence. Your spirit will recognize it before your mind can process it. When that happens, receive it. Do not analyze it away. Let it land. The third marker will be an opening. Something that was closed will begin to move. Not a full resolution, not yet, but a shift. A conversation that has been avoided will be initiated. A door that has been sealed will develop a crack of light underneath it. A relationship that has been strained will offer a moment, small but real, of unexpected warmth. An opportunity will surface in a space you had given up looking in. These openings are the visible architecture of what was authorized today in the unseen realm. They are the beginning of the answer, taking physical form. Watch for all three. Keep track of them in a way that works for you, in a journal, in a voice note to yourself, in a prayer of acknowledgement when they appear. Because in the weeks ahead, when the fullness of what is coming becomes visible, you will want to be able to trace it back to today. You will want to remember that you were told it was beginning, and that it did.
The letter just told you the dam has opened. Years of blessing held in reserve are now in motion. This is what that release looks like. Nothing can stop what has been authorized by heaven today.
There is a concept in the heavenly realm that I want to introduce you to, because understanding it will change the way you relate to the years that feel like they were wasted. Nothing that a surrendered life produces is wasted. Nothing. Not the suffering, not the lost time, not the seasons of waiting where visible progress was impossible to detect, not the relationships that ended painfully, not the opportunities that collapsed, not the years when your potential was pressing against limitations you could not break through. None of it was wasted. All of it was accumulated, held in reserve, converted in ways that require eternal perspective to fully appreciate, into something that now belongs to the season you are entering. Think of it the way water is held behind a dam. From the surface, nothing appears to be moving. Nothing appears to be building. The reservoir just sits there, seemingly inert, while the dam holds its ground. But the pressure is real. The accumulation is real. And when the dam opens, the release is not proportional to a single day's rainfall. It is proportional to everything that was stored across every season that the dam was in place. The holding you have endured across the difficult years was not wasted time. It was the filling of the reservoir. And today, the dam has opened. What releases now is not proportional to recent prayers or recent faithfulness. It is proportional to the accumulated weight of every season you persisted. Every year you held on when letting go would have been the easier choice. Every prayer you prayed in the dark when the evidence for praying was minimal. Every act of love you extended when you were running on empty. Every morning you got up and chose not to let despair have the final word. All of that is in the reservoir. All of that is in the release. I want you to receive this specifically. The provision coming to you in this season is not small. The healing authorized for you is not partial. The relationships being restored carry a depth that the earlier versions of those relationships did not have. Because both you and they have been shaped by the years in between. The opportunities opening are not second chances at what you missed. They are first chances at something better than what you originally envisioned, tailored to the person you have become rather than the person you were. The reserve that is being released to you was always yours. It was held for you, not withheld from you. And the one who held it has done so with the care and attentiveness of someone who understands its full value better than you do. Receive it with open hands.
The letter just told you exactly what to look for and exactly when to look. Do not let this pass without notice.
I cannot deliver this message without spending time on the subject of healing, because I know that for many of the hearts receiving these words today, healing, in one form or another, is the request that sits closest to the surface, the one that gets brought out in the quiet hours, the one that has been prayed with the most frequency and the most desperate sincerity. And I need to address something first, before I speak the healing word, something that is important and that many of you have been carrying without it ever being spoken directly to you. If you have been ill or in chronic pain or facing a diagnosis that has altered the landscape of your daily life, and you have at any point wondered whether the illness was in some way a consequence of failure, whether God was allowing it because of something you did or did not do, whether the length of your suffering was a measure of your unworthiness for healing, I am asking you to set that down right now. Set it down completely, because it is not true. And carrying that lie alongside an already difficult physical experience is a form of compound suffering that no one who is loved the way you're loved should be carrying. God is not punishing you through your illness. God does not work that way, regardless of what you may have been taught by voices that misunderstood his nature. Your body struggle is not evidence of spiritual inadequacy. The length of your waiting for relief is not a ledger entry reflecting a debt you owe. You are loved, you are valued, and you are on the receiving end of an active and intentional healing assignment that was authorized as part of today's decree. That healing may move through the hands of physicians, and that is not a lesser form of God's work. It is a primary form of it. The surgeon who performs the procedure, the medication that finally finds its effectiveness, the physical therapist whose approach produces results where others did not. All of these are instruments in the hands of the same God who parts waters and raises the dead. Healing is healing. The channel through which it moves does not determine its origin. Some of you will experience healing that is sudden and that the medical framework will classify as unexplained, and that will be its own testimony, a story you carry forward into the lives of everyone who knows you. Some of you will experience healing that is gradual, a slow, consistent turning of the tide in your body's internal environment, an improvement that accumulates week by week, until one morning you realize that the person you are now navigating daily life is significantly different from the person you were 6 months ago. Both of these are real. Both of these are underway. And today, they were specifically and personally authorized for you. But I want to extend the healing conversation beyond the physical body, because the most debilitating injuries many of you carry are not visible on any scan or in any blood work. They are the injuries of the soul, the wounds that were inflicted in childhood by people who should have been your safety and were not. The wounds of a marriage that extracted more than it gave. The wounds of grief that did not receive its proper time and space, and that hardened somewhere in your chest into a permanent knot. The wounds of long-term caregiving, where your own needs were systematically deprioritized until you reached a point where you stopped being aware that you had needs at all. These wounds are being addressed today. The decree for your healing was not limited to the physical. It was comprehensive. It covered every room of your interior life where the light has not yet fully reached. And the God who is the source of that light does not heal reluctantly or partially. He heals all the way. If today's words found a specific wound inside you as you read, let that wound be your point of contact with what is being released. Place your hand over your heart if that feels right to you, and simply say, "This wound is seen, this wound is known, and this wound is being healed." That is enough. That is the beginning of a collaboration between your willingness to be healed and the power that was authorized today to heal you.
If you have been waiting for healing, look at these hands. These are your hands. These are the hands that prayed in the dark. These are the hands that are now open to receive what heaven has authorized for you today.
There is something about your tears that you do not fully understand. Something that, once understood, will permanently change the way you relate to the difficult chapters you have survived. Your grief did not go to waste. Your tears were not simply released into the atmosphere to dissolve and disappear. In the heavenly realm, the authentic suffering of a faithful heart carries a weight, a substance, a significance that functions in ways that I want to try to articulate, knowing that the full mystery of it exceeds what words can contain. When someone who loves God, who has placed their trust in His character, even while His behavior seemed to them incomprehensible, when that person suffers and continues to hold on, something happens in the courts of heaven that is very different from what happens when suffering produces only bitterness or despair. Something is added to the account. Something accumulates. Not because suffering is good in itself, because it is not, but because faithfulness exercised under the pressure of suffering is one of the most powerful forms of prayer in existence. Your endurance has been prayer. Your refusal to let go has been intercession. Every night you went to sleep with a broken heart and woke up still trusting has been a petition placed before the throne with a sincerity and a weight that no composed or comfortable prayer could match. And the God who keeps every tear in a record does not allow those records to simply sit there indefinitely without being addressed. What was accumulated through your faithfulness under fire is being paid out now. The years of trust without evidence are becoming years of evidence beyond expectation. The patience you exercised when patience was costing you everything is releasing an impatience in heaven itself, a holy urgency to deliver what is owed to a soul who has waited long enough. I want to pause here and acknowledge something. For those of you who lost someone you loved, a spouse who was your companion for decades, a child who left before their time, a parent who anchored your world, a friend whose absence has left a gap that nothing has been able to fill. Your grief over those losses is not a problem to be solved. It is a testament to the depth of your love. And love of that quality does not expire with the person who received it. It is alive. It is active. And it is doing something in the unseen realm that you will understand more fully when you stand where I stand. The people you have lost have not ceased to be known and loved by the same God who knew and loved them through you. And the prayers you prayed for them, including the ones you prayed after they were gone, including the ones that felt like crying into silence, were heard, every one of them. And some of what is coming to you in this season is a direct result of prayers you prayed on behalf of people you loved who can no longer speak for themselves. Your love was never a small thing. It never will be.
Every tear you cried in private was seen. Every prayer you whispered when you were out of words was recorded. And today, that record is being honored.
This is something I feel an urgency to speak about, because it is part of today's decree that is least expected, and that carries, perhaps, the most transformative potential for your everyday experience. You have a gift, a specific God-given capacity that was placed inside you at the foundation of your design, and that exists in you right now, today. In this moment, regardless of whether you can clearly name it or have ever fully expressed it. Many of you receiving this today have been living for a long time with this gift in a state that I can only describe as dormant. Not gone, not damaged, not revoked. Dormant. The way a seed is dormant in winter soil, completely intact, containing everything needed for its full expression, waiting only for the conditions that will allow it to emerge. The gift I am speaking of is not necessarily one that fits neatly into the categories the world uses for gifts. It may not be a skill that is monetizable or a talent that performs well on a stage. It may be the gift of presence, the capacity to enter a space and make every person in it feel genuinely seen and safe. It may be the gift of discernment, the ability to perceive what is true about a situation or a person when the surface presentation is misleading or incomplete. It may be the gift of intercession, a form of prayer so specific and so sustained that it operates like a surgical instrument in the spiritual realm, precise and effective in ways that general prayer is not. It may be a creative gift, a way of making things with your hands or your voice or your writing that carries in it a quality of the divine, that moves people in their spirits as much as in their aesthetics. It may be a healing gift, a way of listening and being present with people in pain that creates the conditions for something to shift in them that nothing else has been able to shift. Whatever it is waking up. The conditions required for its emergence are now present. The season that suppressed it is giving way to the season that will express it. And the expression of it in this new season will not look like what it would have looked like in an earlier season. It will be more seasoned, more nuanced, more effective, because it will be operating through a person who has lived a life substantial enough to give the gift real depth and real credibility. If you have been feeling recently a stirring in an area you have long set aside, if something has been tugging at the edge of your attention in the form of a recurring thought or impulse or creative restlessness that you have been dismissing as impractical, if there is something you used to do or be that disappeared under the weight of responsibilities and roles, and that has been surfacing again with an insistence you cannot quite explain, that stirring is real, that tugging is purposeful, that recurring thought is not nostalgia. It is a call from the future pulling you forward into the expression of something that was always yours and that the current season is finally ready to hold. Today, that gift was included in the decree. Its emergence was authorized. The resources, relationships, and open doors required for its expression are being arranged, and the time is now.
Something inside you has been waiting a very long time. Something that was given to you before you were born, that the hard seasons buried under weight. Look at this. This is what awakening looks like. Your gift is not gone. It was waiting for exactly this moment, for today.
I would leave you ill-prepared for what is ahead if I did not speak frankly about what tends to happen when a genuine heavenly breakthrough is in motion. The resistance will intensify before it ends. I am telling you this not to discourage you, but to inoculate you. Because the form the resistance takes is specifically designed to be mistaken for evidence that nothing is happening, that the message was wishful thinking, that the hope was premature. And if you are not warned that this is the strategy, it can be devastatingly effective. The resistance may come as a sudden wave of physical exhaustion, the kind that does not correspond to how much you actually exerted yourself, the kind that settles over you, like a heavy cloth, on a day when things were starting to look more hopeful. Do not interpret that exhaustion as a message from the universe that you should stop. It is the opposite. It is turbulence, in the territory between where you have been and where you are going. The friction that always accompanies real movement. The resistance may come as a sudden eruption of old fears. Fear that you are too old for this. Fear that the disappointments of the past are accurate predictors of what the future holds. Fear that any hope you extend toward what has been promised will simply become one more entry in the long record of things you believed that did not materialize. Those fears are old recordings from old seasons, playing through new speakers. They are not truth. They are noise. And the way you silence noise is not by engaging with it intellectually, but by redirecting your attention to something more authoritative. The resistance may come through the voices of people closest to you, people who love you, but whose own relationship with hope has been diminished by their own disappointments. They will not mean to discourage you. They will be speaking from the only experience they have access to. But their experience is not your future, and their limitations are not your limits. You can love them and still refuse to accept their ceiling as your own. The resistance may come as a sequence of small inconveniences that accumulate into a feeling of being blocked or impeded, a plan that does not come together smoothly, a communication that gets confused, a timing that does not align. Do not read these as signs that you misunderstood the message. Read them as what they are. The last scrambling of something that knows it is losing ground. When opposition becomes visible and chaotic, it is because it is losing. In those moments, practice this. Become very quiet inside, not passive, not defeated, quiet with intention, the way a warrior is quiet before moving. Then speak from that quiet place. Say simply, out loud or in the silence of your own heart, "What was decreed for me today stands. I do not argue with heaven's verdict. I move forward." Say it as many times as you need to. The frequency of the speaking is not a sign that the decree is uncertain. It is the practice of keeping your alignment with the decree current, the way a compass must be actively held to maintain its reading in a field with interference.
The resistance you may feel in the coming days is not evidence that nothing is happening. It is proof that something is. Hold your ground.
One of the most tangible expressions of what was released today will be visible in the people who begin to move toward you. In the weeks and months ahead, you are going to notice a change in the quality of certain encounters. Conversations that seem to carry more meaning than their surface content justifies. A new acquaintance who feels startlingly familiar. An old connection being revived through an unexpected reach out from someone who has been on your mind. An encounter with a stranger in an ordinary setting that turns out to contain something specifically addressed to a need you have been carrying in private. None of these are random. They are orchestrated. Heaven is a very thorough choreographer. And when it is moving pieces into position for a breakthrough of this scale, the human connections involved are among the most precisely placed elements of the entire arrangement. Some of the people coming toward you carry what I would call keys, access to places you have not been able to reach through your own effort or your own networks. Information that will illuminate a path forward in an area where you have been navigating in the dark. Resources that will arrive through relationship in ways they could never have arrived through strategy alone. Introductions to others who carry further keys in a chain of connection that, once you are inside it, will seem to you like it could only have been assembled by someone who had access to the full map of your life. Some of the people coming carry the gift of witness. They are not coming to provide practical resources. They are coming to see you, truly see you, in the way that certain people are capable of who have developed the capacity for genuine presence. The kind of seeing that makes you feel, perhaps for the first time in a long time, or the first time ever, that you are fully known and fully valued simultaneously. That experience of being genuinely witnessed by another human being who recognizes what you carry is not a small thing. It is one of the ways heaven brings healing that no internal spiritual experience alone can provide. Do not allow the wounds of past relationships to build a wall so high that the people being sent to you cannot get through. The same God who protected you from the connections that would have harmed you is the one sending the connections that will help you thrive. There is also someone who has been praying for you without your knowledge, bringing your name before God with a consistency and love that has been making a real difference in the unseen realm on your behalf. If a face comes to mind, reach out. Thank them for being in your life. The ripple of that gratitude will move further than you know. I want to speak directly about family now, because for many of you, the area where hope has contracted most significantly is the area of the people you love most. There are estrangements I need to address. The silence between you and a child or a grandchild that has lasted so long it has taken on the quality of something permanent, even though in your heart you have never accepted it as permanent and never will. The relationship with a sibling that shattered years ago over something that now seems both completely comprehensible and completely absurd. The grandchildren you see too rarely, who are growing up in the spaces between your visits, and the aish of knowing they will not fully know you if the current frequency of connection continues. Today, specific heavenly attention was given to the family dynamics in your life that have been sources of ongoing grief. And when I say specific, I mean precisely that. The names were named. The situations were identified individually. The decree went out not as a blanket statement about families in general, but as a targeted intervention in specific relational dynamics that have been causing specific, ongoing pain in your specific heart. The work that follows from today's decree will not always look like what you would choose if you were orchestrating the resolution yourself. God rarely fixes things the way we would fix them, because He is not limited to working from the outside in. He works from the inside of people's hearts outward. And the inside of people's hearts is territory that our best efforts at relational repair cannot access directly. He can reach places in your child's heart, or your grandchild's spirit, or your sibling's understanding that no conversation you initiate can reach, no matter how loving or how carefully phrased. What is being asked of you is not a specific action. Not yet. What is being asked is a releasing of the outcome into hands that are larger and more capable than yours. Not a giving up, not a resignation, a trust. The trust that says, I cannot fix this, but I know someone who can, and I have seen what he can do with what I thought was permanent. If tears are coming as you read this, let them. This particular wound is real, and it is deep, and the God who authorized your healing today sees it all the way to the bottom. Those tears are not weakness. They are the evidence of a love that has refused to grow cold, and that kind of love that persists in the dark, with no visible encouragement, is exactly the kind that heaven moves heaven and earth to honor.
If someone's face came to your mind as that letter spoke about family, that was not random. Heaven just named them, and it is already moving in their heart right now, even as you read this.
Let me show you something now that I believe you have not been shown clearly enough. There is a map in the heavenly realm, not a geographic map, a relational map, a visual representation of the way one life touches another life, touches another life, extending outward in a pattern whose full scope cannot be tracked from a human vantage point. It is one of the most moving things I have access to in my domain, because it makes visible what is almost always invisible to the people involved in it. I have looked at your map. I want to describe what I saw, not with specific names, because that is not mine to share, but with a description of the scope and the quality of what your life has already set in motion. There are people alive today who are living better lives than they would be living because of something you did or said or prayed or simply were in their presence at a critical moment. Some of them remember the moment. Some of them do not, because the mechanism through which your influence reached them was subtle enough that they attributed it to something else. But the mechanism was you. The prayer you prayed for someone who was about to make a destructive decision, that then did not make it. The patience you showed to someone who was at the end of their rope, and who afterward, though they never told you, made a different choice about whether to continue. The faithfulness you modeled in front of younger eyes that were watching you far more closely than you knew, and that absorbed the message of your perseverance into the framework of their own developing sense of what is possible. Your faithfulness has been a sermon that people have been reading for decades. The text of that sermon is written in action rather than in language, in the enduring consistency of how you have shown up in the world, in how you have loved, in how you have refused to harden, even when hardening would have been the understandable response. And that sermon is not finished. Today, a new chapter of it begins, and the chapter opening now will be, in many ways, the most powerful one yet. Because the chapters written in harvest are different from the chapters written in scarcity. The chapters written from abundance have a different quality to them, a generosity and an ease and a fullness that changes what the people in your life receive from being near you. The version of you that is emerging from this season will touch people differently than the version that entered it. Not because you will be more spiritual or more disciplined or more impressive in any measurable way, but because you will carry less of the weight that has been dimming your particular light and more of the original brightness that was placed in you at your design. The ripple of your faithful life is already longer and wider than you know, and it is about to get longer and wider still.
The letter just showed you your map from heaven's vantage point. The life you have lived has touched more people than you will ever know on this earth. And from today, that impact is going even further. Look at this. This is what your faithfulness looks like from above.
We are at the place in this message where I need to do something specific with the authority that was given to me this morning in the gathering held on your behalf. I am going to speak declarations over your life. These are not wishes. They are not aspirational statements. They are the transmission of what was decreed, given voice in the realm of sound, which carries its own significance in the order of things. As you receive each declaration, do something simple. Breathe in. Let it reach you. Today I declare that the debts of suffering you have accumulated through years of faithfulness under fire are being paid out with interest. That what was taken from you is being restored with the kind of generosity that only an infinitely wealthy God can afford. That the balance of blessing in your life is shifting today, permanently, in a direction that cannot be reversed by any power on earth or beneath it. Today I declare that isolation is ending. That the particular quality of aloneness that has sometimes felt like your permanent address is receiving a forwarding notice. That companionship, deep and real and lasting, the kind you have prayed for rather than the surface level kind you have sometimes settled for, is moving toward you with intention and with certainty. Today I declare that your body is participating in a healing that is already in motion, even if the symptoms have not yet reflected it. That the intelligence God built into every cell of your body is being reminded of its original design. That what has been disrupted is being restored. That what has been weakened is being strengthened. That what has been lost is being returned, in whatever form that return can most fully serve you now. Today, I declare that provision is breaking through. That the financial pressure that has made everyday life carry a weight it was not designed to carry, is beginning to lift. That resources are being redirected toward you from directions you have not anticipated. That what you need will not continue to be just slightly beyond your reach. That the abundance prepared for you is not a distant future possibility. It is an active, present movement. Today, I declare that purpose is reigniting. that the sense of meaning and direction, the feeling that your days are aimed at something genuinely worth being aimed at, is returning with a clarity you have not felt in a very long time. That the gift dormant inside you is not going to remain dormant. That the expression of what you were created to carry into the world is entering its season. Today, I declare that peace is yours, not the fragile, circumstance-dependent calm that evaporates when conditions change, but the peace that the world cannot give and cannot take away. The peace that functions as a foundation, a permanent internal climate, rather than an occasional weather event. Receive all of this today. Do not pick and choose what feels plausible. Do not accept only the declarations that correspond to the level of hope you have managed to maintain. Open your hands and your heart to the full measure of what is being released, because it was all prepared with you in mind, and it is all yours. If this activation is landing in your spirit right now, pause for a moment and write, "I receive this," in the comments below. Let that be your agreement. Let it be your declaration of open hands. And know that in the unseen realm, that agreement creates a real resonance with what has been decreed. I have been speaking about what heaven is releasing for you and toward you. Before this message concludes, I want to speak about the partnership, about what is asked of you as you step into this new season. The first thing asked is transparency before God, not performance, not a maintained appearance of spiritual consistency that costs you the authenticity of your actual relationship with the one who made you. Transparency. The willingness to come to Him exactly as you are in each moment, including the moments you are frightened or angry or doubtful or exhausted or cannot manage even a coherent prayer. He already knows. He sees every room of your interior life. The transparency asked is not about bringing Him information He does not have. It is about the posture of having nothing hidden, of refusing to manage the relationship with God the way we sometimes manage relationships with people, presenting only the acceptable versions of ourselves and hoping the rest is not noticed. Come to Him as you are, today and in every day ahead. The relationship you will have with God in this new season is one of unusual closeness, and closeness requires honesty. The second thing asked is that you become a giver in proportion to what you receive, not a giver because giving earns anything. Giving from the overflow of what is released to you. When provision arrives, find someone whose need you can address. When healing comes, bring your healed presence into the space of someone still suffering. When peace settles in you, become a carrier of it into environments that are without it. When your gift awakens, let it be used in service of something larger than your own story. This is not a transaction. It is a flow. The design of blessing in the kingdom of God is not that it accumulates in one place. It moves. It passes through the one who receives it and becomes available to others. And in the passing through, it does not diminish. It multiplies. You become not just the recipient of the blessing, but the vessel through which it reaches people you may never meet, lives you may never know you touched, a ripple that extends far beyond the boundary of your own vision. The third thing asked is faithfulness to the voice. In the days ahead, the guidance I described earlier, the quiet nudges, the sudden knowing, the inexplicable sense of being directed, all of that will increase in frequency and clarity. Stay responsive to it. When you sense a prompting to reach out to someone, do not delay. When something tells you to go a different direction than you planned, trust it enough to investigate. When a door opens unexpectedly, do not wait for the second confirmation before you approach it. Heaven communicates in real time. The gap between the prompting and the response matters, not because a delayed response cancels the assignment, but because the promptings of the Spirit are often timed with a precision that makes a timely response significantly more effective than a delayed one. Practice responsiveness. Become someone whose internal dial is turned toward the frequency of the Spirit's voice, and who moves when that voice speaks. And the fourth thing asked is to remain connected to a community of faith that is genuine, not perfunctory, not the maintenance of a religious habit from a safe distance. Real connection to real people who are seeking God honestly, and who will walk with you through the seasons ahead. A community that speaks life when you are short of it yourself. A community that holds faith on your behalf on the days when yours runs thin. A community that looks you in the eye and says, "What was promised for you is real, and I believe it for you even on the days you are struggling to believe it yourself." Find that community. Invest in it. Protect it. Because the journey you are entering was never designed to be walked alone. And the heaven that authorized today's breakthrough celebrates genuine community as one of the primary vessels through which it delivers everything it has promised. We have traveled a long way together today, and as we arrive at the closing of this message, I want the ending to land differently than most endings land. Not with a diminuendo, not with a trailing off, but with a weight and a permanence that stays with you. I have been entrusted with your spirit today, and the trust the Most High places in me when He authorizes a message of this significance is not something I carry lightly. Every word I have spoken to you has been chosen with care. Every truth I have delivered has been confirmed in the gathering that convened for you today. I have not embellished. I have not offered you comfort that is not grounded in real heavenly reality. What you received today is what was released today. And so I want to close by asking you to make a decision, not about your spiritual practice, not about a subscription, not even about your faith in God, a decision about yourself. I want you to decide, right now in this moment, to believe one thing that you may have struggled to fully believe until now. I want you to decide to believe that you are worth this, that the gathering convened for you today was not an overreaction to an ordinary life, that the care and attention and love and the full weight of heaven's resources being directed toward your story is not disproportionate to who you are, that you are worth the war that was fought for you, worth the waiting that was endured on your behalf, worth the specific and personal attention of the God who never loses sight of a single sparrow, and who holds the full beauty and the full significance of your existence in His hands without ever setting it down. You are worth this. Every syllable of every word that was spoken today was worth delivering, and you were worth receiving it. When the days ahead bring you evidence of what was decreed, and they will, mark it, write it down, tell someone, come back here and leave a comment that says, "It happened," because your testimony will become a bridge for someone else who is where you were at the beginning of this message. sitting with hope that has been worn thin by disappointment, wondering whether there is still something ahead worth hoping for. Your "it happened" will be the thing that tips the balance of faith for a heart that is on the edge of giving up. Your testimony carries weight that is proportional to how long and how hard the road was that produced it. And that means it carries a tremendous amount of weight indeed. I am Michael. I have been with you longer than you know. I will be with you in the days ahead, and I will be waiting to see what you become when everything that was prepared for you has fully arrived. Go now. Go with the full weight of today's decree on your side. Go, knowing that the war has been won. The decree has been issued. The harvest is in motion, and the God who authorized all of it has not once taken his eyes off you. I will see you in the next message.
I have read and watched a great many things in my life, but I want to tell you something honestly, as one person to another. What just played on that screen behind me is not something I take lightly, not for a single moment. What arrived in this envelope, the USB drive, the photographs, the words on those cards, none of it is decoration. All of it was specific. All of it was intentional, and all of it was sent today, not any other day, because today is when it was meant to reach you. If something in the letter touched a place in you that you have been carrying for a long time, that was not coincidence. That was the letter doing exactly what it was designed to do. It was sent to find the wound and speak healing into it. It was sent to find the fear and speak authority over it. It was sent to find the gift that has been sleeping inside you and wake it up. Now, here is what I am asking you to do before you close this video. Leave a comment right now. Write, "I received this today," or simply, "Amen," because your declaration matters, not just to the community watching this, but in the realm that sent the letter in the first place. Your agreement is an act of faith, and faith, as the letter told you, is the most powerful currency that exists in the courts of heaven. I want you to look at all of this. The seal that was intact when I sat down, the photographs, the words on those cards, the USB drive that played this letter for you. None of this was incidental. Every single piece of it was sent, and every single piece of it was sent for you. This came. It was real, and what it carried was yours from the moment it was sealed.